Hey everyone, it's Thumbstick. I hope you're all doing well. So this is the Razer Wolverine V3 Tournament Edition, a wired-only Xbox licensed controller with 1000 Hz capability on PC and Hall effect sticks. It's priced at £100 here in UK and $100 in the US. All we get is the controller and a rubber 10-foot long USB-A to USB-C cable. It's built completely out of plastic, but there are no creaks or anything like that. The build quality definitely feels solid. We don't have any rubber grips, but there's some nice texture on the back that really helps with the grip of the controller. And in terms of design, it's still following the same Razer design from the Wolverine V2. To me, it feels like it's based on the Xbox Thumbstick layout, but look how far apart these sticks are. And it's much wider. It sort of feels like a hybrid of the DualSense and the Xbox controller. When it comes to weight, this weighed 250 grams on my scales, and on the same scale, the standard series controller weighs 240 grams without batteries. So my Chroma V2 had an issue where the audio had a lot of hiss in it. This time around, the V3 actually has really good audio. Sound level-wise, it was very close to the Elite Series 2. I would say it matches it. Just like I tested the Fusion Pro 4, this went to 89.6, I believe. The sound meter does have an error of 1.5 decibels, so 89.6 maximum on this one, and the Elite Series 2 was 90.8 in basically the same settings and everything. Yeah, 90.8, 89.6. The audio definitely sounds great in there, no hiss or anything like that. And if you have the Dolby license, then you can do your EQ and things as well. I still think, personally, for whatever reason, Elite Series 2 sounds the best. When it comes to the latency numbers, checking how long it's taking for the sound to be played through the headset, it came very close to the Elite Series 2. So that Elite Series 2 was 19.2 frames on average. It took at 120 frame recording, and the Wolverine V3 was 19.8 frames. So not much latency added at all, and the volume level is very good as well. So the controller can do 1000 Hz on the PC. Right now is in Xbox mode. So if you look at the updates per second, it will go to like 460 something. That's just basically telling you how many updates per second on these two axes. So you can say the report rate is like half of that, 230, but it's 250 Hz in Xbox mode. But if we put it into the tournament mode, which basically makes it like an X input controller, Xbox Accessories app is not going to recognize it. Even Gamepad Tester will not show it as an Xbox One controller, will show it Xbox 360 controller. To do that, I'm just going to press the function button and the menu and A, and that will basically restart the controller. Now it should be in 1000 Hz. So that value that we were getting for like 460 something in 1000 Hz will just jump up to 1700 or whatever. Basically it goes up. So 1000 Hz works on, this is Windows 10, so it works on Windows 10 as well, but when you go into 1000 Hz, it does disable the Xbox license. Now, if I show you guys the results of my latency test on Xbox Series X, this is a 4K 120 FPS, and this is with VRR off. And the Wolverine V3 Tournament Edition came in at 7.72 average. Compare that to 7.47 on the Elite Series 2. And Stealth Ultra was 7.2. And Fusion 4 was 8.4. And I've already shown you guys about the G7 SE 1000 was 6.47, G7 HE 1000 6.87. But it's a very responsive feeling controller on Xbox for sure. So here I have the companion app open on my PC. Apologies for the font, it's just a custom font on the system. It's not the app that's doing it. But basically we are able to adjust our button assignments in this app, but we don't have to do it in the app itself. We can actually assign the button mapping on the controller itself, and the app live shows what we change. So if I just press this function button and the multifunction button, the LED starts blinking. So M1, if I want to press to the D-pad, it will basically change to that, and it will translate it there. And if I just go into editing the assign buttons, so we have the capability of assigning basically any options that we are available on the controller to these multifunction buttons, even menu and view as well, and we can disable them as well. And we have this a little bug going on at the moment, which is with the clutch functionality. So if I assign this the right stick, so if I want my M1 button to do a sensitivity clutch, if I adjust it now, and I adjust it to, let's say 5 or 7 or whatever. So once that is done, basically what happens is when I press the M1 button, it's going to reduce the output to 70% because I chose number 7. So right now my stick is doing the full rotation, but if I press that, now it's going to go to like 70% in all the directions. The problem is, the bug that's going on right now is if I change this assignment now, so I will change this multifunction button to what I wanted it, to the D-pad left, right. So when I press it, I'm going to do a D-pad left, but look what's happened. It's still doing that clutch, the sensitivity clutch. Even though I have taken the sensitivity clutch off now, that button shouldn't be doing this sensitivity clutch thing. So if you mistakenly assign sensitivity clutch to one of the buttons and then you change to something else, in game when you press that, the sensitivity clutch will happen. It happens even if you change the profiles. The only way to fix it is basically just go back there and do the assignment again, go into sensitivity clutch, adjust now, and just make sure that it's to full 10. So when you press it, it's still doing 100%. So, because if you change it here, if you do 3, then it will only do a 30%. So make sure that you make it to a full 10 and done, and then change it to whatever you want to change it to. Once you've done that, if you basically press, it will do that, but it's not going to limit your stick response. So if you've done that by mistake, then yeah, this is the only method that I've found that's working at the moment. Unless you know something else, please leave that down in the comments. So one thing that's missing here as well, we can assign the stick presses to the multifunction buttons, but we cannot disable the sticks. So it doesn't give us capability of changing anything else to the other buttons. It's just allowing, the app is just allowing us to do what we can do to the multifunction buttons. The other options we have are thumbstick settings. So I'm just quickly going to go over, I'll explain in detail in the thumbstick section what these are doing. But we have this checkbox for preventing double dead zones, and for whatever reason the mouse doesn't do it, you have to do it with a controller and then press on it. And then standard and circular output, again, I'll explain what they are doing. The dead zone options are really good. This time around, we don't have 1 as the minimum, we actually have 0 as the minimum. So that's a huge plus, and the 0 actually means 0. We don't have minimum dead zones. You will see the true center of your stick. You will see the register they are doing, the play that the stick has. And it's going to show that, which I think is a huge plus. And they go up by 5. I think 5 is like 12 or 13% or something. But yeah, so finally we can completely disable dead zones here. And the same thing, the sensitivity clutch there, I've shown you guys already. But yeah, and haptic feedback, you can actually change this on the fly as well with the function button. So if you press and left and right on the the right and left bumper apparently supposed to be changing this haptic feedback, but it doesn't show on the app. But if you want to do that, you can do that. The other thing is you can create more profiles, so you can have multiple profiles, but we don't have the capability of changing the profile on the fly. We can do the mapping on the fly, but we cannot change the profiles that we've made on the fly. We have to come into this companion app and do it here, which I think is a big omission. Razer should really think about implementing something that we can change this thing on the fly. I'll explain in the double dead zone section why that's so important. All right, the face button, guys. You know that I only play FPS games, so I don't use them that much, only spamming them when I die to respawn as quickly as possible. But these are what Razer call the mecha tactile buttons. They're very satisfying to press. Razer have always had like, good face buttons and stuff. I haven't come across on my Chroma where, like double press or anything happening, but I have seen comments online where people have had issues with these after use, like, doing a double press and stuff. D-pad, again, we have those 4 switches, like 8-way for these micro switches, feels very nice as well. And I mean, this has 6 extra buttons, guys. Like, I'm not even pressing the D-pad, the type of games I'm playing now, because, we have these 2 shoulder buttons and stuff. But yeah, very nice, clicky D-pad, nice clicky face buttons, and I don't think anybody would have any complaints with these. So overall, a very premium experience. All right, the bumpers. These have this mouse clicky feel press, but they're not the same as the face buttons or the back buttons. So the bumper, definitely the tag switch or the mouse click switch they're using feels a little bit different, but it works so well anytime that I needed to use them, they work exactly when you want them to use them. I don't have any double presses or a no register presses. So they've been working great, even on my Chroma after, you know, whatever, how many hours I've used that one. Never had any issues with the bumpers. Triggers, so this time around we have a full press, the linear, you know, triggers, and when we engage the trigger stop, it gives us that mechanical press. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. Personally, I think it's just a me thing, because everybody is going to love these. I'm not a big fan of these. The force that's needed once it goes to that end, like, I do find it a little bit difficult to press. I'm hoping it's because the controller is new, but I have over 25 hours of game time on it already, and pressing these repeatedly, I do find myself, like, you know, feeling a bit odd if I want to press them very quickly. Comparing this to like when this is not engaged and I need to quickly press them, I much prefer like this. I wish we had a software option as well to adjust maximum minimum dead zones when the trigger stops are not engaged. Like, that could have been a really good feature as well, but we don't have that. But with the trigger stops, I think everybody's going to be happier. It's just like a me thing where I have some issues with it. The paint they've used, the matte paint, feels nice. The force needed, like I said, feels a little bit much to me, but I think most people are going to be like so satisfied with these triggers and bumpers. So definitely a premium experience for sure. All right, moving on to the back buttons. So these finally are not in the middle. The back ones they put like in the grips, and they protrude out a lot, which might take a little bit of getting used to, but we do have some texture, not as rough as the grips. I wish it was a bit more rougher, the texture. But these do have those mouse clicky feeling presses, and I am very rough with the back buttons, and these are holding up absolutely fine, so I haven't broken one yet. And using these buttons now, the placement and the press, actuation force, everything is great. The problem that I had initially when I started playing with this controller is the overall design of the controller, especially when we factor in the back button. So what I find happening with me is when I grip the controller, I feel like the grips are not going deep enough in my little finger, sort of like, so my little finger hangs at the edge holding the controller up. So instead of being here, I'm down here, sort of like holding the controller like that. This gave me a lot of cramps, especially on the left hand, because what I was doing, the way these buttons are placed, I'm using the ring finger for the bottom one and the middle finger for the top one. It's just something that I do if you have, you know, two buttons in the grip on the left hand side, because my thumb is here. I'm not aiming with this, just moving, so I can actually do that, and that works really well on this controller. But my finger just being so off when I'm trying to do that just gave me, like, my first few hours of using this controller was yeah, I was thinking like maybe I might not be able to make this like adjust to it and make this my main controller, but thankfully I got adjusted to it. And once I did, like, I'm using them simultaneously with the ring finger and the middle finger, so using these dip joints to press them. On the right hand side, I can't use them simultaneously because I need that grip. I can't move my ring finger, so all I do is I just use the middle finger for the bottom one and the top one, and so it works great. And I'm pressing the right side, I'm pressing from here, so I'm not pressing it from the edge like I'm doing on the left side. I'm pressing it from this side, so there is a little bit of a dead spot right close at the beginning of the trigger, but just a little bit down there, this the button there actually feels great to press. So this is where I press the bottom one on the right, and the top one, I usually keep weapon swap there anyway, so very easy to press. So yeah, I can actually use all 6 extra buttons. The top one I just have for like in Call of Duty, for the changing the fire mode on the left, and the right one is for kill streaks and stuff. So yes, if you spend some time, you can easily use all these 6 extra buttons, and it's a strange feeling never having to take your thumb off the sticks. And when they work, once you get used to them, they actually work great. They the actuation, everything, it's been on spot, like no problems, no delays. It's not like that I've mistimed using them and stuff. If I want to slide cancel, if I want to jump shot, crouch and up, whatever, they worked really, really well, but I did have to get used to them. The physical thumbstick tops, they are the Xbox size ones, and if you have control freaks of the standard Xbox controllers, they will fit perfectly. They don't rotate or anything, very secure fit, and when you use them, they don't come in contact with the top of the controller or the anti-friction ring. So that's very good, and the material they've used on the stick itself is actually very nice. The middle has no texture, but still feels very grippy. The edge has a lot of texture, definitely feels a lot grippier. And the anti-friction rings makes it so the sticks glide very smoothly, no problems whatsoever. But I wish, you know, they had included some different ones, or even a wider one or whatever, like the Pro has for the price point. But it is what it is. If you are somebody who's control freaks, this is a really good experience. All right, the thumbstick performance. So like I showed in the software, we have the capability of completely disabling dead zones, and it will disable the dead zone, and you'll be able to see the exact center of your stick within that play that you have. And I've already made a video on how to manually calibrate them, so you can adjust the center point if needed as well. So we have different options. We have a circular option, which will do the circle. This is the standard one, which will give us like 12% error rate and stuff. I'm going to show you guys what the difference between these two is. And in terms of the resolution, what they're using, it's every increment is like 0.9%, but I've already made a video showed like how my controller has uneven output. So my left hand side from center to left on the right stick, unfortunately, is on the right stick. I have nearly 1.2%, so 1.19% on the center to left. So that only gives me around 87, 86 zones. On the right hand side, because I have so much register from center going to left on the right stick, the right hand side is 0.86. 0.87%. Up and down are very equal, 0.9, 0.94, 0.91 up and down. So like not much, only one zone difference. So I think that's what they are going with, like 0.9%. I hope that everybody else, when they get their controller, is equal. They don't have this wonky thing going on, but it's not that bad like this My Stealth Ultra, which has like very uneven resolution, and it's high enough. It's more than 100 zones that they are going with. So if we look at the left push, you can see, you know, all zones are like equal size. They're trying to do a linear output. I mean, as linear they can with these K-Silver sticks, I believe these are K-Silver. And so then on the right hand side, because I have more zones on the right, you'll see like, you know, 0.8%. So this is like a motorized push and a very linear output as well. Okay, so this prevent double dead zones basically does what it's saying. It's preventing double dead zones. Imagine you have dead zone enabled on the controller of like 3 or 5% or whatever, right? And your game has a 5% dead zone. That means your physical 5% movement, your controller will ignore, and then it will start outputting 1% after that 5% physical movement. If your game has a 5% dead zone, your game is going to wait for a 5% input from your controller, then is going to register the output basically on the screen, that things will start moving. So you have a double dead zone effect. You have a 10% dead zone at the end of it, because both controller and the game is applying a dead zone. So this double dead zone, what this is going to do is, depending on what dead zones you are using, is going to ignore, when you come out of that dead zone, is going to put that much of the register already on the stick. So if we enable that, I'll show it to you here. And if you go to the right stick, I hope you can see this, but if I enable this, so now my stick should come to 0. So I've enabled that, like it's 0, it's not showing anything. The moment I come out of it, is going to do that 3% register, 0.27 it is. So you will see that it will go straight to 27, depending where I am, 39 even. And yeah, so I've seen like, it's around 3%, 27. So around 3% at the value 1. So there's a physical sort of dead zone of, I would say, around 2.73%. When we go to 2, it will go higher than that. So when we come out, it's like 55, so 51. So it's like 5.1% or something like that, 2. And then when we go to 3, of course, it's going to ignore a lot. And when I really come out, it's like 7% straight away is going to register 7 and then nothing. So it's basically, it's preventing the value that you've chosen is linked to it, the output that's going to be. Now, unfortunately, I think they should have unlinked the 2. they should have allowed us to have a one setting dead zone, which was a 3% dead zone, but the output of like the 5 or 10% or whatever. Because games, if they force a dead zone, we don't know how much dead zone they are forcing. Some games could be 10%. In Call of Duty, I've encountered a bug where it forces a 10% dead zone. Happened to me literally 3 days ago. So in that scenario, if I had the capability of using a 1% physical on the thing, but the moment it comes out of it, gives a 10% register, I could negate that force dead zone on me that the game is applying. We don't have the capability yet, but a scenario where, you know, if the game bugs out like Call of Duty does, if I had the capability of adjusting the output, also having 2 different profiles that I could switch on the fly, then I could completely ignore that bug. I'll just switch my profile where I have the double dead zone applied and don't worry about it. So that's something that we don't have yet. When we have nothing applied and we use the double dead zone setting, I can't see anything happening. I've tried doing it with a motorized thing and stuff. It's still giving the same values, how much I can on the left side and the right side when I'm moving. I still have the uneven output. Everything feels the same when I don't have the dead zones applied. Now, the thing about standard and circular. So circle is basically going to do the circle output. Let me show you guys that. So right now I have the circle output enabled, and of course it's going to just make a circle. Now, in this output, what we have, if I limit it to, let's say, 60% values and see the shape, you are going to see that diamond logo kind of thing happening, where the absolute values are a bit further out, then the diagonals are smoothing a bit, that we've seen on game side controllers and some other K-Silver GH16 controllers as well. I'm going to limit it right to the extreme corners, and it's going to be a lot more pronounced, so you will be able to see what's going on. So that's the circle output. So this is what if you choose circle, that's what we are getting, very much like what GameSir G7 controllers and even Collide is doing, but at a much lower resolution than them. Now let's change it to standard, and you will see that this changes. So by the way, I've done resolution mapping of the standard and the circle as well, and it does the same values. I still have uneven, that 1.1% and stuff, like those values didn't change. Like the GameSir controllers, raw mode actually gives some extra values. This one doesn't do that. So now I am in the standard output, and the standard output will do that, you know, the hybrid square and circle sort of thing. If I go to the 60%, you will see that instead of clipping the diagonals inwards, it's expanding them. So I have those, you know, areas, the 4 absolute corners are reaching their values, but then the diagonals are sort of going out, and it will be the same thing. If I go to the extreme corners, you're going to see that as well. So that's, instead of just like clipping it in, they are sort of like, you know, trying to make a circle. We've seen this happening with the Fusion Pro 4. Turtle Beast Stealth Ultra is doing the same thing as well. So what Razer has done is they are giving us the capability of basically having both outputs. I personally have been playing with the standard one, and it's been working great. The performance of the controller feels really nice. Even the circle one feels great as well. But they definitely will feel a little bit different to each other. So if you have the controller, I'd highly recommend trying both and seeing what works best in the type of game you are playing. For me though, I personally stuck with the standard one. And like I said, guys, the performance of the sticks is really good. It is a very responsive controller on Xbox Series X. I had no issues in Call of Duty, found my settings very easily, really enjoyed using the controller. And I do think it's a really, really good performer when it comes to the stick output. So my final thoughts, guys, I think Razer has done an amazing job with the controller. The feel of the controller is something that probably could have been a little bit better if they used rubber grips and stuff at this price point, but I understand they're trying to save that for their higher tier model. And all these extra buttons, like 4 back buttons and then 2 extra on the shoulders, like that's insane. I think people will be able to take advantage of this in so many ways. And I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be really happy with these extra buttons and stuff and the performance of the controller. Having the capability of changing the output, they're sort of giving us 2 different outputs, like that's huge. So Even though it's a little bit lower resolution than some of the controllers out there, but I think having that option is a huge plus for people who are finding it difficult, because if you buy a controller, it has just one output, you are stuck with that. They are giving you the option, so there's chances are more people will be able to adjust to this one who couldn't, let's say, adjust to the GameSir G7 controller, or somebody who likes the Stealth Ultra or the Fusion and don't like the GameSir controller. They have those capabilities on this one controller. So when it comes to that, like, amazing. Audio performance was great of the controller as well, like I mentioned, and I showed you guys, like, this is, I think, for the price point, this is becoming like a benchmark. I do wish some extras were included, like extra thumbsticks and maybe the rubber grips and stuff, but other than that, you know, once you get used to the design of the controller, this is really hard to beat at this price point if you are like me on consoles. Like, for this price point, yeah, the performance this is giving actually is very, very decent. I do hope that it's just my unit that has the uneven output of the resolution, and when you guys purchase it, you don't have that issue. But other than that, I am impressed with the controller, and I'm actually really enjoying using this. For me, for a 4 back button controller, this will definitely be the one that I'll be picking up until I get those Thrustmaster sticks, and we'll see how the eSwap X is going to perform. But yeah, so far I'm really, really impressed. This doesn't have the G7 SE's like aiming performance beat for me, or even the Collide right now, because I believe like those extra resolution definitely helps. But what I've been able to do with this controller, how this is performing, yeah, this is, you know, absolutely a great deal at the price point. Well, that's everything from me, guys. If I left anything out, if there's anything you would like to find out or like me to test, definitely leave a comment below. I'll try my best to reply to every comment I get. And please share your thoughts, your opinions, your good experience and bad. Like, that would be really helpful, not just for me, for everybody in the community. Thank you so much to everyone who subscribed. Your support means a lot. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Hopefully I'll catch you in one of my other videos. Bye for now.